Hello, I'm Disbrew, and first up this week we have PlayStation CEO says that more studio acquisitions are planned. Speaking as part of the recent launch of the new PlayStation subscription service, CEO Jim Ryan says, "We're in a really good place with PlayStation Studios and have been for the past few years. The critical and commercial success of games that we've been making has given us permission to invest heavily in content creation. We're growing our studios organically and through acquisitions. We've acquired 5 studios during the course of 2021, and we're in discussions with Bungie and have more planned in the future. This is getting us into a virtuous cycle where success begets success, and the subscription service itself is, I think, rather underwhelming when you compare it to something like Xbox Game Pass, but it's at least a merger from before. So if before you were subscribing to both PS Plus and PlayStation Now, you will at least get some kind of discount on the price. As you can see here, the monthly price of the PlayStation Plus Essentials is $9.99 and $60 a year, and this is just the old PlayStation Plus. Then you got $14.99 for PlayStation Plus Extra, which comes out to $99.99, $100 a year. And this have PlayStation Plus, 400 PS4 and PS5 games. And then you've got the top tier, which is PS Plus Premium, which comes in at $18 or $120 a year. And this contains all the previous tiers, plus PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2, and PSP downloads and streamable services, so you can actually stream these on PC or various different other devices. All in all, I'm actually not a fan of the tiers, mainly because of the substantial discount that you get for the annual price over the monthly price. And overall, I'm not a fan of trying to force people into annual prices just because the difference between the monthly and the annual makes monthly almost unreasonable to actually go for compared to the annual price. And the whole aggressive upsell of it isn't for me. Also, as this service doesn't include any first-party titles on day one launches, overall I think it does fail compared to the Xbox Game Pass option, which, as far as I was aware, is exactly what this was meant to compete with. So I think it's pretty weak, but maybe in the future they have spoken about how they could change it depending on how it goes, and quite honestly, I think if they actually want to compete with Xbox Game Pass and move into other platforms as they've stated before, then they're really going to have to change up their ideas. E3 2022 has been completely cancelled. We actually heard before that it was being cancelled as a live in-person event because they weren't sure whether they could actually hold it, but now the digital online-only event has also been cancelled, and I have to say, why? I can only think of 2 real reasons. Either there just wasn't enough new games coming out, they couldn't get the people to actually attend, and that seems pretty unreasonable unless working from home has really put the kibosh on people's productivity and they just can't actually get something out. Or the other possibility is that these companies have just realized that digital-only presentations don't really help them. I mean, if they're going to do some kind of trailer or launch event, then they can just do that on their own at any time. Why do they need E3 at that point? Yeah, sure, E3 might be useful when it's an in-person event and you've got all that huge hype behind it and people want to see what's going on. But if it's just going to be a stream, anyone can do that themselves. And those streams actually allow you to do it in more detail with more videos and most of all, more time. When you're doing a digital-only event, you have to kind of think, what on earth is E3 actually for? So I can understand if you're going to skip the actual E3 part of the E3 and just going to do an online stream, why it might actually be cancelled this year. It is coming back in Los Angeles for 2023, and hopefully they're not going to cancel that one. There are times when I like to look at the stranger side of gaming, and I have to say, some stories just, I'm thinking, what on earth is this? Like when The Witcher decides that it's going to get a cookbook inspired by The Witcher's settings, characters, and lore. Did you know this was a thing? Because I didn't. I mean, this was actually published on April Fool's. It's not an April Fool's joke, and in fact, these are actually pretty common. For instance, Destiny did a cookbook quite a while ago, then you've got Elder Scrolls out in there, there's a World of Warcraft one, Overwatch did one. How on earth are you doing Overwatch recipes? I don't even know how it's physically possible. Fallout are out here? I don't know, is that irradiated chicken or something? Heroes Feast from Dungeons and Dragons, Minecrafter's Cookbook, there's a whole range of them. In fact, this is an article of at least 15 that we know are out there. I'd actually love to know how popular these are and whether they're actually used a lot. Mind you, it's not a surprise that I don't know anything about them, given the fact that if I tried to follow them, I'd probably end up just making myself ill. If you're a fan of Halo Infinite but just can't stand the problems with it at the moment, unfortunately, I wouldn't hold your breath. considering a Halo Infinite dev has said, "We understand the community is simply out of patience. It's a difficult situation that's going to take the team time to work through." He says, "There are indeed a lot of challenges and constraints. We're certainly not happy to be unable to meet player and community expectations, but right now the focus is on Season 2 and we'll have more to share in the coming weeks. Meanwhile, a lot of production planning, costing, hiring, etc. is all happening, which doesn't really lend itself to detailed regular updates, and we understand that the community is simply out of patience, and they need more than words. We just need time for the team to get details sorted that we can certainly share as we can. Just to manage expectations accordingly, that's never a good sign. The upcoming Infinite blog team offers perspectives of key Season 1 themes. While some work items are confirmed to be coming for Season 2, many others are in earlier or various stages of development with no firm ETA yet. So if you're hoping for improvements, if you want the lag to be fixed, if you think that matchmaking's better, or actually can you just get my ping and hit detection to work correctly so I don't get hit around walls, I wouldn't hold your breath. And the way Halo Infinite's actual player numbers are decreasing, it's not looking good for Halo Infinite. This game launched with 256,500 players on Steam, and that's not even counting the Xbox Game Pass side of it, and is now down at around 8,000 players, or 9.7 over a 24-hour peak. Now yes, it's more than Battlefield 2042, but so is every other game. Let's face it, that kind of decrease over such a short space of time for a game which is designed to be around 4 years as an ongoing service with battle passes and returning player bases, it's not good, and it is entirely down to their development and how they just don't seem to be fixing the problems which have happened there. When Big Team Battle was actually broken for months at a time, and the hit detection has to be some of the worst of any FPS I've played, it's just unfortunate for what was a game that could be incredibly fun if you actually played it in the ranked competitive mode with friends. It's just got so many downsides that they grate on you over time and has eventually led to the players' decline. Even though I think a lot of these players did actually want to stick around, you just can't stay with a game that doesn't actually improve or fix the problems in a timely manner. And I would have loved one of the big new FPS of last year to really succeed and give us something new. It's just unfortunate they had major issues which they don't seem to have been able to overcome. Elden Ring's publisher, Bandai Namco, has actually contacted Brandon Sanderson because they want to work on a new project. The author received a large Elden Ring parcel which included a sword, cloak, and other merchandise based on the From Software game, along with a note from Bandai Namco. "We're interested in perhaps doing something together," is what it says. I am as well, actually. That's how I roll. I actually have a pitch for them in the back of my head, so I may send them that pitch and see what they think. And it turns out that, as ever, Brandon Sanderson is a constant machine. Not only does he pump out novels at a rate that I don't know if anyone else actually can even compete with, but he actually has pitches apparently developed for so many things that he actually thought about at one point and just kind of stored away there. And so now he's got one for this. Honestly, while George R.R. Martin apparently worked on Elden Ring at the same time, the story is quite hidden, and I'm not a big fan of anything which requires me to look up a YouTube video to try and find out about it. But as I'm a big fan of Brandon Sanderson's books, kind of any game where he adds the story to itself, I'm very interested in. And that also doesn't come with any of the issues that George R.R. Martin did, judging by the fact that people actually want him to finish the books, and so working on a game actually annoys a lot of people, which would prefer his attention to be directed to an unfinished work rather than a new project which he really didn't need to take on. Overall, this is good news for me, and I'm looking forward to seeing what comes out of it on the other end. In Call of Duty news, we find out that Warzone won't be getting any more maps because of the download size, apparently. I think this is probably the worst excuse you could possibly give, especially when Caldera is disliked by a large percentage of the population, and they're just playing Rebirth now. But apparently we can't have Verdansk because, oh no, someone might have to leave their computer on overnight to download it. I mean, of all the things a developer could come up with as a reason, this has to be the worst excuse. But it's also not the only Call of Duty news, as we've got this, where a Call of Duty Vanguard player who was in a tournament got his entire college kicked off because he was cheating on stream. This is a guy who actually had a camera on his monitor to prove he wasn't cheating, and you just saw the wall hack boxes come around the characters as you saw people through walls. I mean, you couldn't write this stuff. If you're going to actually have a camera on your screen, you'd think you'd double check first that the hacks weren't showing on it. But apparently, college students aren't that smart anymore. Overall, this guy had won $4,000 in various different tournaments, and it turns out he likely didn't deserve any of them, especially if he was cheating in all of them, but who knows nowadays? You see a lot of hacking accusations going around nowadays, and things like this prove that, hey, maybe some of them are actually real. But for now, that's it from me. Let me know what you thought of any of the topics down below. Like the video if you like the video. Subscribe more videos like this in the future, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.